The courthouse is quiet this morning, save for the soft rustle of paperwork and the occasional murmur of a passing conversation. The air is thick with the weight of small-town anticipation. It smells faintly of printer ink and old wood. Fluorescent lights buzz softly overhead, casting a sterile glow over the scene. But even amidst this routine, something different lingers today. A familiar energy. Judge Caprio enters, and the room shifts. His presence immediately commands respect, though it's softened by the easy charm that defines him. He greets the room with a nod, his calm voice carrying authority without the need for a gavel. The faint sound of footsteps follows him as he takes his seat, settling into the rhythm of his day. But then, as his eyes scan the room, they pause. In the defendant's chair, the familiar figure of a woman catches his eye. His breath catches for a brief moment. A small gasp escapes him, his hand hovering over the gavel. It's her, a woman he never thought he'd see here, not in his courtroom at least. Mary Donovan, a neighbor from his childhood, is sitting there in his court, looking both surprised and embarrassed. The years seem to fall away as they exchange glances, their recognition instant. Her silver hair is pulled back in a neat bun, her face a bit older, but that same warm smile and the bright, knowing eyes still shine through. "Mary," Judge Caprio says softly, disbelief coloring his tone. "Mary Donovan, is that you?" The room falls into an expectant silence. Mary's eyes widen in recognition, a brief flash of shock giving way to a sheepish smile. "Well, if it isn't Frank Caprio, looks like fate brought us together again. But not quite how I imagined," she says with a nervous chuckle. A quiet hum of laughter escapes the courtroom. There's a palpable warmth between them, and the entire room feels it. Judge Caprio smiles back, his tone soft, but full of nostalgia. "I didn't expect to see you here, Mary, not in my courtroom at least." The energy in the room shifts, and for a moment it feels less like a formal court proceeding and more like a reunion of old friends. As the room settles into an unusual pause, Judge Caprio and Mary share a brief, silent moment. The years between them melt away. It's as if they've stepped back in time to a small neighborhood street where everything was simpler, the world was a little quieter, and everyone knew each other's name. Judge Caprio's voice breaks the silence, a grin spreading across his face. "Last time I saw you, you were running down the street in your bare feet," he says, the playful glint in his eyes obvious. "You and your brother were always up to something." Mary laughs, a sound like a summer breeze rustling through trees. "And you were always the one watching us, making sure we didn't get into too much trouble," she teases. "I still remember that time we tried to sneak into the old barn on the edge of town, and you ratted us. Out to Mrs. Daly." The courtroom is suddenly filled with a ripple of laughter, the formality of the space lifting as the two old friends share a moment of shared history. "Oh, she would have caught you eventually," Judge Caprio says with a laugh, shaking his head. "Some things never change." The air in the courtroom is light now, warm with nostalgia and the quiet joy of recognizing something familiar. The formality of the day feels distant, replaced by the simple, comforting familiarity of old friendships. The laughter fades, and the reality of the case before them returns. The reason Mary is here is simple enough: a minor traffic violation. She stands accused of running a red light. It's a small offense, certainly, but the consequences are still real. A $50 fine and points on her license. Judge Caprio leans forward, his expression softening, but his voice firm as he addresses Mary, shifting into the role of the judge. "Mary, I know you've always been a careful driver. What happened?" Mary looks down for a moment, her face briefly clouded with embarrassment. She sighs, the humor draining from her expression. "It was just a moment of distraction, Frank. I was thinking about my sister's visit next week. Lost in thought, I guess. Didn't see the light change." Judge Caprio's gaze is steady as he listens, absorbing her words. He knows her, knows she's not the type to take these things lightly. "A small mistake," he says, his tone soft but serious. "But it's still a violation of the law. However," he pauses, his voice becoming a touch more empathetic. "I've known you a long time, Mary. I know this isn't the type of person you are. The room is silent, the weight of the moment hanging in the air. He picks up the ticket and examines it carefully, weighing his decision. Tell you what, Judge Caprio says, his voice carrying the warmth of old familiarity. I'm going to dismiss the ticket. But remember, it's not just the law you need to follow. Your safety, and the safety of others, is just as important. A collective sigh of relief escapes the room. Mary's face lights up with gratitude. Thank you, Frank. I really appreciate it. Her voice is soft but full of sincerity. The gavel falls with a soft tap, signaling the end of the case. The courtroom, while still a formal place, feels a little more human now. Before Mary leaves the stand, there's a brief pause, a moment of reflection. Judge Caprio leans back in his chair, his gaze thoughtful. You know, he begins, his voice softer than before. Life has a funny way of bringing people back together. I never thought I'd see you here, but I'm glad I did. Mary's smile deepens, her eyes meeting his with a quiet understanding. It feels good to know some things never change. You're still the same Frank I remember, always looking out for everyone. There's a shared look between them, a silent acknowledgement of the years. Gone by, the friendship that had endured despite the distance and time. The moment feels heavier than it seems, filled with years of memories and the unspoken bond that has always existed between them. The room feels less like a courtroom now, and more like a space where human connection thrives. Judge Caprio nods, his voice gentle. Take care of yourself, Mary. Don't let life rush by too fast. We all need to slow down once in a while. As Mary leaves the stand, the narrator's voice fills the room, soft and reflective. Sometimes justice isn't just about rules and regulations. Sometimes it's about remembering the faces we've known all our lives, the stories we've shared, and the kindness that lingers in the smallest of places. The camera lingers on Judge Caprio, his expression thoughtful as he watches Mary walk away. The courtroom is quieter now, the hum of daily routine returning, but there's something different in the air today, a warmth, a connection. The narrator continues. In a small town, every face is familiar, every case is personal, and sometimes justice feels like home.